Good Friday, everyone, and thank you once again for tuning in to yet another weekly Friday edition of the Alan Fitz podcast, aka The Chat, live from our studios right here in Amarillo, Texas. Alan Fitz, the host for the program today, and again, thank you for tuning in to the show. Before I get started on the topic for the podcast for today, I'd like to welcome in our three different audiences that tune in to the program each Friday. And those three audiences need to be recognized and should have been recognized a long time ago. So I'd like to take the opportunity before we start the show to give them that recognition. Number one, those positive folks out there that do agree with what is being said on the program. They do leave positive commentary on their pages and of other things out there in social media. We also want to recognize the audiences that leave the constructive criticism that don't always agree with what is being said on this show, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong at all with constructive criticism. And of course, least but not last recognized is the haters out there, which, work for free. Folks, they spend all their time leaving negative comments and not even get paid for it. Isn't it wonderful how one person can control a group like that? They're not even recognized because they can't see the forest for the trees, and it doesn't matter how much good you do, they're always going to find some negativity on it. So we don't pay any attention to those folks, but we have to give them some type of, at least very small, recognition because they are part of the audience. Of course, I'm sure a lot of you out there do each Monday go back and read what the topic of the next show is going to be. And yes, it does talk about deporting certain individuals out of this country, but we're going to get into the deportation and execution by firing squads and all of that a little bit later on the program as a solution to this government shutdown that is going on right now. And this is the longest, folks, the government has ever been shut down in U.S. history. And it's basically, if you want to break it down, it's the Democrats out there that are not agreeing with a lot of things that are going on, but it mainly stems around the government shutdown, mainly stems around the Republicans out there that do not at all agree with the Democrats on giving health care to illegal immigrants and illegal aliens in this country. I totally agree with where the Republicans are going on this, but I don't agree with the Democrats at all because, like President Donald Trump said several weeks ago, basically indirectly calling the Democrats idiots out there, simpletons. Folks, if you will, you always vote for an extension before a government shutdown actually occurs. That way you can sort things out. You have a different deadline to do that. But no, the Republicans are not wanting to do this because, ladies and gentlemen, they're looking at zeros. And I'm going to get into deeper depth here on the program a little bit later of what I mean by zeros is what those Republicans are looking at in the future. We have a problem in this country with health care. The states, the federal government is giving out too much health care to people that do not belong in this country. Whether these folks, and for the want a sense with this, folks, most of this is illegals that are in this country. Now, we're going to get into the migrants, people that have migrated here that still need to be deported a little bit later in the show. But I want to start off on the podcast today talking about welfare benefits, food stamp benefits, WIC cards, and all this other nonsense that is going on in this country right now with these people mainly, I'm going to use the term Mexicans, if you will. I'm not trying to offend anyone. I'm not trying to start any drama by using the term Mexican, but in all truth, in reality, this is what we have. They're known as Mexicans. They are coming over to this country, and, word of mouth, let's back up for a second. Word of mouth is the biggest advertisement that has ever taken place in this great nation. I've been in radio for more than 47 years now, and I can tell you that word of mouth is the greatest cost nothing experience that you can have to get your word out. Whether it be a business, whether it be a personal podcast, whether it be a professional podcast, or whatever the case may be, word of mouth travels like a wildfire. I'm going to tell you partly what is wrong with the economy of this country. And a lot of you, and it's okay for you to agree, it's okay for you to disagree. Part of the problem that we have with this country is the government is spending trillions of dollars, folks, to provide people health care that have never paid a penny into the system. And we're talking about, of course, illegal aliens, illegal Mexicans being in this country. Trump talked about, we're going to build a wall from Tijuana, Mexico, all the way down to Brownsville, Texas. And we're going to stop those illegals from coming into this country and milking the healthcare system and milking whatever else they can get their grubby little hands on. Trump said we're going to build a high wall. Well, Trump is a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, misled on what he's trying to do, or what he's going to see happen by this. I think we all can relate to the statement that I'm about to make here, that building higher walls is not going to keep Mexicans and people from Nicaragua and people from South America and the Panama Canal and all that from coming in the country, because they're a little bit smarter than that. They'll just build higher ladders and jump the wall anyway. So a lot of that money that is been ordered by executive order of the President of the United States, basically they're throwing all of that down the toilet and flushing it because it's not doing any good. Okay, they're going to get across that wall. They're going to get across that Rio Grande. They're going to get across that border. They're going to go under tunnels. Whatever they have to do. If they have to swim in a sewer full of human waste and excrement to get to this country, to live to the American dream, that's exactly what they're going to do. You know, if you ever remember the movie Shawshank Redemption, when the guy had a picture of Raquel Welch in his cell, and he began tunneling out of his cell to reach freedom. He had to literally wade through 5 football lengths of nothing but human crap and urine and things of that nature. So I'm sure a lot of you out there can probably relate where I'm going with this. If they want, the illegals want in this country bad enough, they're going to do whatever it takes to get in this country. And this is the problem that I'm talking about on the show today. Now, we had mentioned earlier word of mouth advertising is the best advertising that can ever be generated. And a lot of you will agree with this, that you'll have a Mexican male will leave his family behind for whatever reason. They're trying to cross the border, whether it's in the middle of the day. Most of them do it in the middle of the night. We're not going to scratch around and try to find somebody to interview here on the podcast saying, why are you coming on to America illegally? In my professional opinion, that's an invasion of their privacy, and that's their own business. It should be kept their own business and not broadcasted or podcasted everywhere. But anyway, getting back on subject, so they come to America to so-called live the American dream, and where this word of mouth advertising comes from is, folks, mainly they'll come over here, they've got some kind of forged documentation. It's not legit, it's fraud. In the basic way to say this, and they'll go land a job with these invalid credentials, or even no credentials whatsoever. These farm workers that come up here, especially in the upper Texas Panhandle, those counties up there, where the cotton and the wheat and the milo and all of that is grown, and farm work, undocumented. The owners of the property generally will furnish them a run-down, cockroach infested mobile home to live in. They don't go to town. They find somebody legal to go buy their groceries, their beer, their marijuana, whatever their choosing is. And then the word of advertising gets out. Well, now look at me, amigo. I'm up here working in the United States, and now I can draw health care and milk the system. Boy, I'm living the American dream. You know, folks, I hate to bust your bubble, but that's not the way this works in this country. So you have the ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Department of Homeland Security, the head honcho lady, Kristi Noem, who is also, we need to mention, she is the ex-governor of South Dakota that had a big spill with the Sioux Indians up there in the Dakotas about the pipeline system coming through. And basically she made some very erroneous remarks that some of these people need to be shot. Get them out of our country, get them out of my way. They interfere with what I do, my freedom of movement. Whatever the case may be, she is the Homeland Security Director. So she begins ordering ICE, the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, to start rounding up these people that are in this country illegally. And if they've had some kind of dealing with law enforcement as far as some type of violent crimes, or just over and over petty theft, or whatever the case may be, prosecute them and deport them back to Mexico or wherever they come from. And then, you know, they run a sweep. ICE will go back 3 or 4 days later. And here we go again. A ring around the rosies kicks in. These same people are back again. And the process goes over and over and over. And, you know, there's an old saying out there, and I've heard this, some of the old timers out there, folks, if you will, talking about it doesn't do any good to deport them. They can pick them up. For an example, ICE could come in up here, or even the Border Patrol, Customs Enforcement can come up here to here in Amarillo, and you know, round them up, put them on a bus, and shuttle them down to Brownsville, Texas, and hold them at gunpoint, make them walk across the border into Matamoros, Tamaulipas, Mexico, and then they leave the checkpoint. They go right back. The bus will run up the road several blocks to refuel with diesel fuel. and make a straight shot back to Amarillo nonstop, only to find out that they've beat the bus back up here. So the process starts once again, folks. The deportation process starts. And this is a problem, ladies and gentlemen, that has been going on in this country for many, many years. And now the Republicans are looking at it from a matter of zeros. I'm saying that again, and we are going to get to that zero subject here shortly. Just bear with me here. I'm going to draw this out for you a little bit, or drag it out, I guess you could say, a little bit longer to get to that point. If you're a follower, a regular follower of the chat on this podcast, that is something that we do. We drag this thing out to make you better understand when we get to the point of where we're going. So one thing that, and I know a lot of you out there are going to say, boy, you are really going into the cruel levels here, but you know, folks, this is I own the podcast here. I mean, you can look at it from this standpoint. This is one man's opinion. I can sit here and talk about Charlie Kirk all day and run negative remarks about Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk was a negative, evil person. And, you know, all these people that have made negative remarks about him, been fired, lost their jobs, yada, yada this, yada, yada that. I could talk about Charlie Kirk on every podcast from here to the end of eternity, and good luck getting me off of it, because I'm the owner of it. I mean, that's just the way it goes. But I'm not the only one that has said something else needs to be done about deporting these people that don't belong in this country. And we're going to get into that here shortly. One thing that I do agree with the Republicans is that, no, these illegal immigrants, these illegal aliens, if you will, they don't need health care from this country, simply because, number one, and we'll use this as an example to this, but it's like an American citizen going across the border to our neighbors in the North, Canada, and you get sick up there. The Canadian Parliament, the Crown up there, they're not going to help you because you're not a Canadian natural-born citizen. And the key word on this podcast today is quote unquote natural born citizen to this country. These illegals have swam across the Rio Grande River, or whatever they've done, you know, maybe even got an Uber or a taxi cab from over in Mexico and came to this country illegally. And the first thing they want is the government to take care of them and give them health care and welfare, and they ain't paid a penny into the system. Think about it, folks. Why would the government give them anything if they haven't paid anything into it? I spoke earlier about welfare, food stamps, WIC cards. We're going to talk about that and illegal immigrants in this country. And even those that have migrated to this country, they don't need those benefits. It doesn't matter whether they came to this country legally or not. They're not natural-born citizens. They need to be deported. And I'm going to give you, on this podcast today, I'm going to give you a solution. This is not a theory, folks. This is a solution to getting rid of the illegal immigrants in this country, trying to milk the healthcare system, trying to milk the state welfare system, and I guarantee you this is going to work. Cut the employment. I don't care what they are doing. I don't care how high on the ladder that they have been able to achieve from being at the bottom of the totem pole. terminate their employment, terminate their rent. If they are a homeowner, figure out some legal way to run them out. Don't give them any kind of health care. Don't give them food stamp. Don't give them WIC cards if they're over here. And it may be their wife. It could be a Mexican prostitute. It doesn't matter. They could be shacked up together and she's pregnant, thinking she's going to get more money in food stamps. And I'm going to go back and explain to you where that comes in. Ladies and gentlemen, years ago, and this is it's a part of life to remember. There were certain types of people. We're not going to mention those certain types, but just think about it for a moment. That the women would stay in the bed all the time, if you will. Didn't matter if it was with her husband or if it was with John or just a Joe Blow that she met on the street. And sexual activity took place, and kid after kid after kid kept coming out. Well, here in Texas, folks, the more kids that they would give birth to, the more welfare benefits they were entitled to. They would get an increase on food stamps. Then they had to get on what was called WIC, which is Women, Infants, and Children, and they started drawing milk and cheese money, if you will. Then they started getting on SNAP benefits, and the government caught wind of it. The state governments caught wind of it and said, we're going to cut them off. They're doing this on purpose to get more money. Are they spending that money on their kids? No, they're not doing that. What they were doing is, back years and years ago, they had something called food coupons. And whoever came up with the slang term food stamps, it stuck. Okay, like a duck in oil. So what they would do, and it took the state of Texas and other states, the state capitals, it took them forever, it seemed like, to realize they were milking the system with food stamps. So what they would do is let's say for an example, they got $300 a month in food stamp benefits. Well, they would trade those food stamps for 50% of the value. So they'd get $150 cash for $300 worth of food stamps, and most of them, not all, and we don't have any, I'm not looking at any documentation in front of me, no studies or anything like that to confirm actual numbers, but most of them are going out and buying drugs with it or staying drunk. And it took the states forever to figure this out. So they went to this, here in Texas, I believe it's called a Lone Star card or Lone Star Participant Food card or something like that. You use it similar to a credit card, and they're like, well, we have defeated the fraud and scam that were coming from the food stamp benefits. Now, actually, they didn't defeat anything. They could swipe that card and still get cash money for it. People still do it today. It's a fraud. It's a scam. It's been going on for years. Why do they do it? Why does the illegal immigrants do it? Why do people that have migrated to this country do it? Because they think that just because they come to America, that the state and the federal government owe them something. Folks, I've got news for you. That we don't owe these people anything. These people are coming into our country and spending our money and using health care benefits that do not belong to them. They have not earned these benefits, especially if they're illegal. They haven't paid anything into the system. And the lawmakers in Washington, D.C. can't see this until now. This is where the zeros finally come in to this podcast. Remember when you were in grade school that your homeroom teacher or your math teacher, I should say, would say that zero is zero. It's nothing. It means nothing. The part that they did not tell you was that when you get up older in life, the Statler brothers used to sing a song that inside that song they would say things get complicated when you get past 18. And the name of that song, folks, was actually the Class of 57. You get older in life and you start being successful in what you do. Zeros can mean something to you because the more zeros you have, the better off you are. Especially if you fit the category of being rich. And we have rich and poor both in this country. Now, it's not just the illegal immigrants and the illegal aliens that are in this country that are causing this issue. It's also people that have migrated here. Especially from South America, third world countries where there's not much going on and people can't find anything to do. So they will migrate to the United States of America and want to live the American dream, but yet all they can do in life is be a web page designer. They really don't contribute anything to this country. But yet, they also, folks, seem to think that the government owes them health care, welfare, and whatever else they can get their hands on. Milk the system. And they'll even go as far as lying about things. Using dead people's Social Security number. Applying for Social Security numbers for their cats and dogs. And just doing whatever they can to rip off not only the government, but they're ripping off the American people. These people are also problems for this country. And the government sees this, folks. They see it. What the government's looking at is zeros. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. Years ago, especially when all this got started, it was back in 1935 when the Social Security Act was enacted in this country. And we're going to get into Social Security a little later before we close out the podcast, because a lot of people are being misled about Social Security going broke and becoming insolvent. We'll get into that a little bit later. Getting back to what I was talking about, and to break it down in the most simplest terms that I can break it down in, there is a way to stop this. Stop all of it. Cut it off. No employment, no rent, no food stamps, nothing. People are going to start hollering, well, now this is discrimination. Really? Folks, is it really discrimination? They're not even a citizen of this country. And whether they're a citizen or not, they don't belong in this country because they're not natural-born citizens. Natural-born citizens of this country are the ones that are allowed to live the American dream. Not these people that are not born here and come over here and think we owe them everything. Because in reality, we owe these people nothing. We owe these people a zero. I talked earlier about Kristi Noem, the ex-South Dakota governor, also Homeland Security Director. They are beginning to make a dent into this immigration problem that we have in this country. But unfortunately, they're not going to solve this because, as I said earlier, The bus takes them down south, drops them off, and they beat the bus back. And the bus never stopped except to get fuel and maybe a bite to eat somewhere. How do you stop this from happening over and over and over? Because, folks, what you don't understand is every time that immigration has to perform this, who is paying their salary? Who is paying the diesel fuel cost to shuttle these people to the border, kick them in the butt, and say don't come back, and they come back? You and I are paying for this, the taxpayers of this country. How do we as an American people stop this from happening? Well, first of all, in a non-lethal way to stop it is, like I said earlier, cut everything off. Don't rent to them. Don't let them buy a home. Don't let them buy property. Refuse them on food stamps. Refuse them on any kind of welfare that they can get their hands on. Don't let them have WIC cards. Don't let them have SNAP benefits. When they can't get nothing, what do they resort to? Nothing, ladies and gentlemen. They leave the country. A lot of you out there are still scratching your heads. You're talking about discriminating against these people. How are these people going to beat you in court on a discrimination case when they don't have anything to beat you with? Roll the dice, folks. That dice roll will win you what you're trying to accomplish. Then again, you have those that don't give up. They get funding from the cartels in Mexico. They rob and steal, break into candy machines, break into anything they can, rob, steal, pawn, to get money to come back to this country. The next thing you know, taxpayer money is being spent for deportation once again. How do you solve it at that point? Folks, you bump it up a level. And it's called execution by firing squad. Because once this is carried out, you don't have to worry about these people coming back. They're dead. This also applies to immigrants or migrants that have come to this country, and they also need to be deported, and they come back again, deport them again, they come back again. Do like they do in the state of Utah. Put them before a firing squad and execute them, because they're not going to come back. I know what you're thinking. This is cruel and unusual punishment. No, folks, it's not. These people are no better than you and I as a citizen of this country. You commit violent crimes in this country, and it's severe enough, guess what happens? You get executed for it, especially if it's capital crimes. Deportation is serious business in this country. And when you have to deport someone over and over and over, it needs to be considered habitual. And because they were not natural-born citizens in this country, it should be considered a capital offense. Execute them by firing squad. Illegal Mexicans, illegal Salvadorians, illegal Nicaraguans, illegal Panamanians, illegal from wherever they can come from. Whether they're illegal in this country or not, whether they migrated to this country or not, deport them, they come back, firing squad. That will solve the problem. Some of you are still scratching your head out there saying, wait a minute, Alan, you're still being cruel with this. No, I'm not, folks, and I'm going to tell you why I'm not being cruel. Look at what Osama bin Laden did to this country, the mastermind behind 9/11. Look at what Saddam Hussein did. genocide to people of his own country of Iraq. What was the ending result for Osama bin Laden, Hussein, and all those people? What did the United States government do? Execution. Saddam Hussein was hung. Okay? They found him the Navy SEALs found him in a foxhole. He was executed. Doesn't matter if it's by hanging, if it's by firing squad, or pouring gasoline on him at the stake and burning him. That's the way they used to execute people in the Roman Empire days. Execution stops all this garbage, folks. If you're not a natural-born citizen, you don't need to be in this country. You don't come to our country to live the American dream. How many American citizens do you know that are going to Mexico, where the peso is not worth anything, and trying to work and live the Mexican dream? Zero. They don't even have any numbers documented. They're not keeping any track record of it because there's nothing to it, folks. What is it about the United States that draws these people up here? I honestly cannot answer that question because everyone is different. Everyone thinks different. Not everyone is alike. I'm not saying torture these people. Torture's wrong. I'm saying deportation, and when you get fed up with them coming back and forth, execute them by firing squad. Web page designers and all of that mess, execution by firing squad. They have nothing to show the United States. Now, there's another humane way to do this. But it won't happen in our lifetime, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to promise you it won't happen. If they're illegal or they migrate here, they're not a natural-born citizen, change the language of the law. They don't get health care. They don't get welfare. They don't get food stamp. They don't get nothing. They're on their own. They can pay for everything on their own. And when it gets to the point that they can't pay it, you got to leave the country or be deported. You come back, you're going to be executed by firing squad. That is one way to stop this nonsense in this country. I back Kristi Noem, again, the ex-governor of South Dakota, Homeland Security Director, for all their ICE roundups that they're doing in the larger cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, Seattle, those cities, trying to rid all that mess up there because they're milking the system. And the Republicans, getting back to the zeros, know that this is happening. And getting back to that zero subject one more time is that if they do not do something, if they reopen the government and they allow these illegal immigrants to receive health care, it is going to break the healthcare industry. The Republicans are thinking zeros in their mind because those zeros, folks, are going to start adding up. It's going to cost the government more money than what they can print out. And you know, everybody knows that they can print all the money they want. They're not going to pay it back anyway. But to face another government shutdown, this is what the Republicans are looking at right now. I talked about the Social Security Act was enacted in 1935, and we're fixing to touch on that here in a moment. It's the final topic subject of the podcast today. Well, what they're doing is they have these geniuses, believe it or not, folks, that are in Washington, D.C., that are in the healthcare field. These are the number folks. These are the people that run the numbers for the federal government. What the Republicans are seeing right now is that they are going to get a lot of zeros out of doing something like this. For years and years and years, the federal government has had these people, and they're called geniuses actually, that can tabulate every year what it's going to cost the government to keep health care on the table. It was specifically a strategic move during the Obama administration that led the president himself to propose his own health care agenda. This is where Obamacare began. And they still can't get it overturned. It's worthless, but it costs the federal government more money than what's actually in the budget to spend. This is what the Republicans are looking at, folks. These number people are reporting this to Congress. It is beyond the budget that can be proposed. It is well over the budget. And that is why the government is shut down, because the Republicans are not going to budge on this, folks. They are not going to budge. They do not want these people in this country. They do not want to pay for them every time they get sick. They break wind. They cough. They run to the doctor, and they run up $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 bill when it's not needed. It's because these people come from third world countries that don't care what they do. These people are probably have not been raised correctly, and they just do whatever they want to do. And the federal government is tired of paying for their little penny petty acts. That's it, ladies and gentlemen, cut and dry. They're not going to budge. They're not paying for their health care. They're not going to pay any more of their welfare, their WIC, their food stamp, and everything else they can get their hands on. Whether they're getting it on legally or not, it's all illegal because they're not natural-born citizens. They don't even belong in this country. You know, I will always be able to say that I was am a natural-born citizen of the United States. I will always be able to say that, and I'm proud of that. Some folks will never be able to say that. And those folks that cannot say that do not belong in this country. They don't deserve anything. Go back to your own country and mooch off your government. That is what you're supposed to do. The government will take care of you. If you are a Canadian citizen, ladies and gentlemen, the Canadian Parliament, the Canadian Crown furnishes health care to its natural-born Canadian citizens. It doesn't furnish health care to someone in the United States that is considered an illegal immigrant in Canada. They're not going to furnish you anything. You're not born there. You don't deserve anything from the Crown and the Parliament. Case in point, illegal immigrants and migrants to this country don't deserve anything either. Final segment of the podcast for today is the myth about Social Security going broke, going busted, going insolvent because the government shut down. We have done the research on this. Documented proof, everything. Social Security is nowhere near going insolvent, ladies and gentlemen. And for those seniors out there that are listening to the chat, the podcast this afternoon, you're okay right now. And I'm going to tell you why. When the Social Security Act was enacted in this country in 1935, there at that given time, and every since that time, even 90 years later, numbers are constantly being ran each year to keep Social Security above water. The federal government, and ladies and gentlemen, again, this is documented. This is documented proof of what I'm about to say right now. The federal government right now could stay shut down for a decade, and Social Security would still be able to pay out benefits to those who have paid into the system, naturally born in this country. They can keep, and they, again, as Social Security Administration, can keep their head above water for 10 years. Number-wise and proof of documentation verifies this information. 90 years later, they can still pay out for 1 decade. Then, yes, it would go completely under and completely insolvent and broke. Dead broke in the water. President Donald Trump's not going to let this happen. He's even said on his own Truth Social channel, he's not going to let this happen. Those seniors out there deserve what they have paid into the system, folks, because they have worked all their life. They have retired. Some of them have gotten sick. Some of them have gotten down, whether it be an injury, that lifetime injury, or even disease. They deserve what they have paid for and paid into in this country. They are our seniors. They are reaping the benefits of their labors and sowing that this day and time. They rely on Social Security. You have a lot of illegal immigrants, and probably more than likely people that have migrated to this country, that are also drawing these benefits illegally. Social Security beginning to crack down on all this hoopla and garbage that is going on. So if you're on Social Security, whether you're on regular Social Security, you're on Social Security disability, or whatever the case may be, if you're a natural born citizen and you qualify for this, yes, you deserve it. Wholeheartedly, and I'll always say that. If you're an illegal citizen, or an illegal migrant, I should say, or alien, or you've migrated to this country, you deserve zero. And if you keep on, and on and on and on, you deserve deportation and execution by firing squad. I'll always believe that. We have seen a boom in population the last 20 years in this country. We have seen people that are too lazy to work. And we're even talking about, folks, natural born U.S. citizens, just too lazy to work. Milking the system. Here in the Texas Panhandle capital city, here in Amarillo, we have a homeless population here. It's not just in Amarillo, it's in every city across this great nation. But we have found people, actually talk to people. I'm going to blow your mind with something before we get off the air today. We have here in Amarillo an abundant amount of people that flag signs. Okay? What I mean by flagging a sign is these people appear to be homeless, wore out. Some of them claim to be veterans of this country. They claim to be homeless, and they flag signs. And what flagging a sign is, basically, ladies and gentlemen, is someone with a pocket knife or a pair of scissors find an old piece of cardboard, and they begin writing, "We'll work for food." We even have some of them up here that will write, "Why lie? I need a beer." And yes, they rake it in. But These are individuals that have no pride line in their life. They will rake it in. They will walk to the nearest beer, liquor store, whatever it may be, grab them a bottle, and then you watch them. A lot of them are going to a 2 or 3 bedroom home that they live in. Whether it be brick, whether it be stucco, it doesn't matter. They're not homeless. Not all of them are homeless. This is also something that is milking the system in this country. These people have figured out how to go completely tax-free by flagging signs. And it's all fraud. It's all scam. It is all deception. But whose money are they getting? They're getting your money, ladies and gentlemen. They're getting my money. Whether you contribute to them or not, somebody out there is working and got money and paid it to them. So we all suffer behind this big scam. It's panhandlers in the panhandle of Texas. And yes, these people are raking it in, and they've got the money to pay for health care. They've got the money to pay for booze. They've got the money to pay for dope. And they still draw welfare, food stamps. Some of the women are pregnant, standing on the street corners, and they have a child at home that God only knows who's watching that child, somebody that she could be shacked up or plugged in with. And yeah, they're milking the system. And these are also United States natural-born citizens. So I'm not just pinpointing, I'm doing this to make a point, folks. I'm not just pinpointing illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, and those that have migrated from God knows where in South America to this country. Stop giving money to these panhandlers up here. Stop giving money to panhandlers anywhere. If they're too lazy to work, they're too lazy to work, but they shouldn't be able to draw welfare unless they have a condition that prevents them from working, in which case regulate food stamps, regulate SNAP, WIC cards, all kind of welfare benefits. Also make them report at least once or twice a month to the agency that is providing this service. Signatures from people that they've applied for jobs for. They're trying to get jobs where they can get health care from companies. That is acceptable. At least they're trying. Not saying that people that are panhandling deserve this, but anybody that natural born here. There's a right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things. And if you're in this country and you're not a natural born citizen, you're automatically wrong for anything that you're trying to do. And the Republicans see this. It is now time that the Republicans are in control and they are going to stop this. They're going to stop the government from opening back up as long as the zeros continue to add up in paperwork that is put before them in Congress and everywhere else. This has got to stop, folks. People coming to this country, not born here, seeking the American dream and thinking we all owe them something. We owe them nothing. We owe them deportation, and if it continues to harass people, molest people, bother people by continuing to come back, execution by firing squad is the solution. These people have the right to go back to their own country and milk off their own government. Now, I know what a lot of you are going to say. Well, they got some poor countries here. Okay? Yeah, they do. Nigeria, right off the top of my head, that's one of the biggest scam governments that's on the face of the earth. But don't think the Nigerian government doesn't have money. Nigerians can also apply for help from the Nigerian government. No, they don't want to do that. They want to sit in internet cafes and call people up here in this country, run fraud and scam, and use spoofing devices to try to fool people. Well, folks, they may fool a lot of us, but those fooling days are over with the Republican-controlled government right now. And I think if they can get it open back up, you're going to see some big-time changes in this country. That is it in a nutshell, and that is the way it needs to be until the end of time. That is going to wrap it up this afternoon for this edition of the chat through the Alan Fitz podcasting. I do want to invite everyone, before we close out the show, to go to youtube.com/Alan Fitz podcasting. Look in the notes, and we do have the modified schedule coming out for the podcast on Black Friday. It is being backed up to Thanksgiving Eve, and we're going to skip that Friday and then advance to the next Friday, which I do not have a calendar in front of me at this time. I do believe that's going to be Friday, December the 5th when we come back. It's also going to be modified for the Christmas holidays as well. So go look at those notes, and you'll know when that podcast, again, I believe that's coming out on Thanksgiving Eve, unless we modify it again and back it up, but I don't believe we're going to do that. I think it's going to be on Thanksgiving Eve. So go check out, again, it's youtube.com/Alan Fitz podcasting, and check out the modified schedule. As we get closer to Thanksgiving, we will also be putting some notes up about possibly engaging a Facebook page and that would only be used as similar to the YouTube channel that we utilize now. That would be utilized to just let you know of different topics that are coming up on the show. We also are planning on utilizing Twitch as well. We may do that if we have a guest on the show and run it live from our studios here in Amarillo. Be on the lookout for that as we get closer to the Thanksgiving holidays. As always, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the podcast, to the chat this afternoon. Come Monday, we will have, go to our YouTube channel, we'll have the new topic out for the following Friday. So until we meet again here on the podcast, this is Alan Fitz, as always, saying have a great Friday, have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Until such time, bye for now.